All right, mythology students. So, getting into our Reader's Theater story number 5, dealing with the Iliad, the Marooned Prince. Again, I think that this is important to make note that it starts off in the terms of a flashback and at the beginning of the war. So, let's begin. So, there is a lot of beef between Heracles, okay, or Hercules, and Hera. All right, now Hera essentially guided Heracles' wife to give him a luxurious robe to wear, and it was not really luxurious because it was filled with poison and it essentially lit his body up in poisonous flames. So he put it on, it was engulfed, and Heracles, being a hero, he wanted someone to kill him to put him out of his misery, but there was nobody that wanted to help him since they would, one, be on Hera's bad side, and two, that, he was a hero. So finally, Heracles got some help from a boy named Philoctetes, okay, who essentially set him on fire, ironically, to end his misery. And as he died, his spirit ascended to Olympus and he became immortal. Now, Heracles left his mighty bow and arrows to Philoctetes as a sign of his gratitude. And it is said that Philoctetes trained with these bow and arrows for a very long time. He trained with them for the next 10 years of his life. He wanted to be worthy of the weapon of, the mighty Heracles. Once he was trained, so after the 10 years, that was just when the war at Troy was starting. So Philoctetes is just entering adulthood, has mastered the craft to use to use Heracles' bow and arrow, and he is ready for war. So he set sails as part of the Greek army. Now, while they were sailing, the Greeks, Philoctetes is with Odysseus and Agamemnon and Menelaus. While they are sailing, they stop at an island called Lemnos. Okay, Philoctetes is walking, and all of a sudden he is bitten by a snake, and this happened because he had helped Heracles at an early age. The snake that bit him was actually the goddess Hera, and she was seeking revenge because she simply did not like Heracles. So she was seeking revenge since Philoctetes was the young boy that put Heracles out of his misery. This bite on his ankle let off a horrible stink. Okay, a horrible stench, and it is said that his ankle swelled to the size of a tree trunk. So when Odysseus and the other Greek soldiers, including Agamemnon, Menelaus, stumbled upon him, they had to make a decision. Do we load him up and bring him with, or do we leave him here? They decided to leave him on the island with an inflated ankle that smelled horribly, but he had the bow and arrows of Heracles. So, once he was left behind, he stayed on the island of Lemnos for the entirety of the war until the very end. So he was on the island for about 9 to 10 years. Now, we find out through a brief narration, and we get it affirmed. We read 2 additional stories, the readings before, on Achilles being shot through the heel by Paris. So we find out that Achilles has died, and Philoctetes has been left on this island for 10 years with a huge ankle that smells. The Greeks find out through a spy that 2 things must happen. They actually find it out through one of King Priam's sons, that there are 2 things that must happen for Troy to fall. Those 2 things are the bow and arrows of Hercules must be used, and Achilles' son must join the war. So, if you remember from our first story, Achilles left his pregnant baby mama behind and told her to tell his son that that Achilles was a very mighty warrior. So Achilles does have a son. His name is Pyrrhus. So Odysseus knows exactly where to find Pyrrhus, so they're able to do the first thing of get Achilles' son into battle. Even though he's only 10 years old at the time, he looks twice his age. And they bring him to Lemnos to try to get the bone arrow of Hercules from Philoctetes. But, they have to do it secretly, and Odysseus can't go ask him because Philoctetes is mad at all of the Greeks, specifically Odysseus, Agamemnon, and Menelaus, for abandoning him there 10 years ago. So, Pyrrhus is instructed by Odysseus to lie and to trick Philoctetes into getting the bow and arrows. And this is really tough for Pyrrhus. That's what interrupts the plan, is that Pyrrhus has a really hard time lying. So the myth ends once Philoctetes finds out that Pyrrhus is Achilles' son and is working with Odysseus and that he is needed. He's about to kill Odysseus with the bow and arrows, but Pyrrhus kind of steps in and tells Philoctetes and convinces him to come to Troy to help end the war. And at the very end, Heracles, or Hercules, I know I said both in this video, I apologize for that. Again, different spellings and different pronunciations of names through these myths. But Heracles comes back, since he is now immortal, to speak to Philoctetes. And he basically just tells him that he should go to Troy, he'll get his ankle fixed, and he'll help end the war. And that is noted on our last page here of our myth binder, specifically page 77. So Heracles comes back and tells them that he will bring about the downfall of Troy, and he will essentially be remembered. So it's a great story. Let me know if you have any questions.